All team, give it everything you got.
It's time to fangirl flail with Fangirls Going Rogue.
Count me in.
I don't think there's anything more important in the Star Wars universe than the fans.
News, discussion, and commentary from the female point of view.
You call this a diplomatic solution?
No, I call it aggressive negotiations.
With your hosts, Teresa Delgado, Tricia Barr, and Sarah Woloski.
Boy, am I glad to hear your voice.
Strap in, because this is where the fun begins.
I like the sound of that.
Welcome, everybody, back to episode 32 of Fangirls Going Rogue, the winner for fan favorite ensemble cast. And I can't do it alone because I'm not an ensemble by myself. Tricia, how are you today?
I am awesome.
I literally just stopped myself from singing Everything is Awesome from the Lego movie. That was what the gap was for. I was like, no, don't do it. Don't do it.
That's why I do it, because it's like it's an audio cue, or for ringworm, people just hear it and they know what you mean.
They immediately start going,
everything is awesome. Everything is cool when we're part of a team.
But that's actually appropriate.
It is.
Because we are a team. And you heard her. It's Sarah Woloski from Skywalking Through Neverland. Hey, Sarah, how are you today?
Hey, I'm excited because it's May the 4th be with you, Eve.
It is May the 4th be with you, Eve. But as you guys heard, we actually won a Star Wars Podcast Award, which is pretty amazing. And we were nominated for a few. And I'm really glad that we won the one that we got, because it honors all of us together as a team and the work that we do, just putting the whole show together, the three of us. So it's awesome. But it's not even just the three of us. It's the four of us, because Sandra Shute, who runs all of our social media, she's a big part of it too. And I consider her in that award. Wouldn't you guys?
Absolutely.
Yeah, she's kind of in, what's the word?
Awesome.
Well, I was looking for instrumental.
Yes.
But it was coming out informational, and I'm like, well, that's not right.
Well, she definitely spearheads a lot of awesome things on social media, including tweet parties.
Yeah, tweet parties, trivia, all kinds of really cool stuff. But we really want to thank the guys who put the Star Wars Podcast Awards together, Mike Audette and Andy Uri. You guys are great, and you did a really good job putting it all together. The show came out awesome, listening to all of the different shows that contributed, announcing the winners and things like that. So it was pretty good. And I know, Tricia, you kind of found out, I think you were who was the first one that said that the winners were up? Was that you, Sarah, or Tricia? I forget who did it.
Sandra knew. She sent a message that it was up, and then I was like, I'm going to have to listen to it. And I had the web page up, but I didn't scroll to the bottom. And we were all like, has anybody listened? Has anybody listened?
I started listening to it, and then halfway through listening, you were like, oh, it's in the bottom of the post. The winners were in the bottom of the post, so we looked right away. We're like, okay, who won this? Who won that?
So it was awesome to see that we won for that. But then I have to tell you guys that as excited as I was for ours, I feel bad, but I got even more excited for the Literature Award, because this is one of those categories that's just it's very niche, and there's groups that listen to different, to each of the book shows, and they don't listen to any of the other ones. It's so weird. And I was really nervous. I wonder if we're going to win. I wonder if we're going to win. And Star Wars Bookworms won, which is amazing.
Oh, well, it was exciting to win. And I mean, of course, all the podcasts nominated. It was awesome to be among the nominees for things as well.
And really, it's a celebration of the community of podcasters. There are people out there that you can listen to in your car on the way, and just reminding people that it's a way to get word out there, and we can always put award winning on our banner now. So that's awesome.
So we have a lot of news. First off, let's talk about some runDisney stuff. You guys got to participate in the runDisney Star Wars Dark Side. Was it the half marathon?
Yeah, it's
marathon.
It's the runDisney Star Wars Half Marathon Dark Side Weekend.
There we go. And this was Tricia's first ever running event, even though she and I were supposed to be forever cheer buddies, but she has abandoned me and participated in a Run Disney event. Dang it, Tricia.
Yeah,
We're
but I'm
supposed to be the ones eating ice cream on the side going, yay!
Eating ice cream.
5K is my limit. No, 5K is my limit. So that's as far as I'm run walking, and anybody can do that. You really, Teresa, you could have done it. It's like going around the park in a day, but
Well,
a little
that's what
faster.
I heard. That's what I heard from Steve Glosson.
But Tricia, this was your very first Run Disney event. Now, for me, this was my 12th half marathon. So it's definitely not my first. It was like my 12th Run Disney event. But I want to know for you, Tricia, like what were some things that stuck out to you being this your very first one?
What stuck out to me was the whole process of starting everybody. And I didn't realize that Corral B was going to be a great place to start the 5K because there was a bunch of people after us that had to wait and wait and wait. So if you were in a later corral, you were essentially not starting at the start time. So you might have started 30, 40 minutes after the earlier one. So for me, that was awesome. Although there were people who left their kids in A and then they started them and they were trying to get up to them and they absolutely refused. So do not leave your children near the start of the 5K. They will not let you forward. And there were desperate mamas and daddies. They were not letting them budge up to the next corral. So that was a interesting process. It was kind of like bleeding moms and dads, like, but my kid. And they're like, well, you have to catch them. So I was like, wow, okay. But other than that, the whole thing was kind of, you just don't know what's going on the first time. So I would do it again. I would probably enjoy it more, but I was more worried about finishing than anything else. So that was my biggest fear. It was interrupted in the middle of my 5K by an email from one for Jonathan Wilkins, Star Wars Insider editor, asking me to write an article. He told
you something and you fell over.
No, he just asked me to write an article, but the email came while I was running. For me, it's in the middle of the morning. 6 or something.
Yeah.
And so I'm running. So it was a distraction. And then the whole process was like, okay, what am I going to rate? And I have to get it done quickly. So
Trisha's running, thinking of Star Wars Insider ideas. Well, I could do this.
Yeah, so I did enjoy the, at the end you could pose for pictures, and I didn't maybe stay because Steve he tweeted, he's like, where are you? I'm looking for you. I'm like, man, I'm gone.
Yeah. I know, I was texting you too.
I know. And that's one of the things. Sometimes people go, oh, it's really cool, you get to do all this stuff. But sometimes when you're doing those things, you got to leave and go right. So that was how mine ended. Not that I'm not really excited about getting another thing to write for Star Wars Insider, but that was the moment for me.
I cheered you guys on from behind closed eyelids.
I bet you did. Yeah, I got up 3 mornings in a row, like at 2:30 a.m. on the East Coast.
And that's what I'm saying. That's why I will only do one. It will only be the 5K. You have got to love this to get up that early at 3 mornings in a row to do that. So I mean, kudos to everybody who does it, but I value my morning time more than anything in the world.
But Tricia, how many medals did you get?
1.
And how many medals did I get? I got 6. That's why we do it. We run for the flag.
There's one thing I will get up early in the morning for, and the next weekend I won 6 ribbons at the horse show, all first place. But see, you got to have your drug, and that is my.
What I'm getting up early for when I'm at Disney?
What?
Character breakfast and pictures of characters. That's the only thing that's going to get me up early. That's it.
See, so if
food and characters.
We each have our priorities.
So let's talk about, while you guys were there for the Run Disney event, y'all also did a listener meetup, and I wasn't there for that. And I just would like to point out, I've been holding this in until we recorded it. I didn't even get so much as a picture from you guys going, we miss you, but it's okay.
We were breaking the law and stuff. Apparently,
So I heard.
there.
I heard there was.
It's
was
true.
some controversy.
There was some
Y'all were
issues.
causing trouble.
We couldn't use like this boat on the side of Jock Lindsay's hangar bar, so we were trying to find a proper spot to podcast. And yeah, so we were preoccupied, but we finally found a great spot right in front of Jock Lindsay's hangar bar on April 17th. Now, I have to mention here, this was a Fangirls Going Rogue and a Skywalking Through Neverland meetup for our Skywalkers, and we had like over 30 listeners, so we're trying to find a place for all of us. So we finally found the spot right in front of the hangar bar, kind of outside at Disney Springs, and we became podcast outlaws. So, but you can hear just what happened and why on episode 118 of Skywalking Through Neverland. So this is just a little tease. Now, after you listen to this show, head over to 118 of Skywalking and see what happened there.
So I wanted to ask you about something, though, because of the Run Disney races, and I've never done one. I want to do one. Okay, Tricia, I'm sorry, but I actually do want to do one. I used to be a runner. I just play up the fact that I'm super lazy right now because I really am. But I want to do one. But there's a new thing that they're offering, and there have been virtual races for a long time where you can do a virtual race, you track your progress on a wearable or on an app or whatever, and then you send it in and you get a medal. And there actually was a Star Wars one not that long ago from a different website, but Run Disney's jumping in on this, and there's 3 of them, and they're the Mickey ones, and there's one that's Mickey's shoes, Mickey's pants, and Mickey's white glove, and you can do all 3 of them, and you get all 3 medals, and you get a Mickey medal, and you just do it on your own. And it's I think they're 5Ks because it's 3.1 miles.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, 5Ks.
And so each one's a 5K, but you don't have to do it all at one time. So I'm like, this could be good for me. Run 1 mile on this day, run 1 mile on that day, and then complete it. Yay!
Yeah, all you have to do is register.
So I don't know what your opinions on virtual races are.
Yeah, you know what? I have never done a virtual race. However, I think I mean, I know many people are saying, oh, Run Disney's just making a cash grab, blah, 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 blah. But I think it's really cool for people who can't always get to a Disney park to do these Run Disney races. They can have a little bit of the magic and also, work on their fitness, which is always good, and get a medal. So I think it's cool. And if I hadn't done so many, I don't know, I was kind of toying with the idea of doing these, but for me, it's kind of like, her universe, new Force Awakens stuff, or a virtual medal.
Yeah, I can see that debate. My decision is pretty easy on that. If it was between those 2 things, it would be the Run Disney races. I think the Her Universe collection for The Force Awakens is gorgeous. It's just not my style. So I kind of got off easy.
Yeah, there you go.
Very easy. But not really, because then I'm going to end up spending the money doing the Run Disney races. But I really want to do these. I just want to be like, look, I have Run Disney medals too, Sarah. Ha, 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 ha.
Well, see, I think you should then. I want to see what they look like. So you'll have to tweet pictures. What about you, Tricia?
Would you do a virtual race?
No, because I have the horses and a lot of other, like I do Pure Bar and stuff like that. So I really did it for the community. And so it just really depends on what you want out of it. So I wanted to see my friends and kind of engage in the mayhem of running, but on a real small scale, and go, okay, I understand what you're doing and I enjoy it. And that's about it. So,
but I'm not doing a half.
Well, I mean, not to ruin this for anybody, but they don't make you prove that you ran.
It's true.
I'm just saying, so you could run on your horse, make it run 3.1 miles.
Well, I ran with my horses to train. So
there you go.
Yeah.
Done. Medal.
Yeah, that was, everybody's kind of like, you're kind of crazy. I'm like, yeah, you're kind of crazy when you're running and Ganner the Jedi horses decided that he wants to eat you instead of run. So that's usually what happens.
I've been there before. My horse and I had an interesting relationship, which revolved around, no, that's my arm. No, that's my arm. No, it's my hand.
Exactly. They're not vegetarians. They
they're
will,
not.
Oh
they
my.
will eat human flesh.
I always
Wow.
scared everybody away from horses.
And it's funny too, because I'm always people who are like, be careful, be careful. They never bite that person that you're like, be careful, be careful. It's like, when you know better, they'll eat you. So
Mhm.
So we have some Lego news. The Freemaker series, and there's some Lego shorts and stuff. They have set a premiere date of June 20th on Disney XD, and they're being set between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. So kind of interesting time frame. I'm excited about that. I'm actually really excited about these, but you guys know I have a Lego problem. I need to get a Lego tattoo that just says I'm an addict with like a brick. It's my badge of honor. Are you guys excited for the Lego shorts and the Freemaker series?
always. I was excited just seeing, first of all, if we remember the reveal of Star Wars Rebels, we had to wait for the female character to come at the end, and she was right up front in the video. And then I realized it was Vanessa Lengies, I think that's how you say her name, from Glee.
Oh.
And yeah, so that was, and her character's name is Cordy, and ace pilot and charming rogue Xander. And I'm like, I recognize him too. And that's Eugene Bird from Arrow. And he was Diggle's little brother, I believe, if I remember that correctly. And then the 12-year-old spunky little kid, Rowan, is the cutest thing. Nicholas Cantu is the cutest thing ever. And so I just saw him in the little video, and I was like, oh my gosh. And then of course we have Matt Wood again voicing a droid, and I think it's just gonna be really fun. So I'm excited for this summer to maybe, not take Star Wars too seriously, have some fun with it, because that's what Lego does.
Yeah. If anything, I love the Lego, the whole the humor that they bring. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Well, on top of that, and this just happened today, but IGN released 8 minutes of Lego Star Wars The Force Awakens gameplay footage. And you can find that over on the IGN website. And I haven't gotten a chance to watch it yet, but just from the initial screenshot of the video, I started giggling because I'm just like, this is going to be fantastic. It's going to be fantastic. And I love the Lego games so much. I love them almost as much as I love Disney Infinity. And I love the little scenes they put in the game and the things that aren't canon at all and are just so hilarious. So who's a fan of the Royals here? And by the Royals, I mean not the baseball team, but
I was going to ask.
No. Not the Kansas City Royals, but the actual royal family. Anybody other than me?
Across the pond. Oh, no, I stayed up for the wedding back in the day.
How cute is, okay, this has nothing to do with Star Wars, but how cute is Princess Charlotte? They released some pictures, and I just said, oh my gosh, you were so adorable.
See, I didn't even know there was a Princess Charlotte.
You didn't know
That's how
she had
involved
another
I
kid?
am.
Prince George and Princess Charlotte, come on.
That's okay. That's exciting. Yay. Yay, royal family.
Yay, royal.
Yes, well, not many people can say, I would like to visit the set of episode 8 and get to do that. So,
But
is that what they did?
Royal, yeah, they went to the set of episode 8 and they played with lightsabers and all that stuff.
Oh my goodness.
yeah. And Kensington Palace is probably they're getting their game on with Twitter. Even Queen Elizabeth, she's not sitting on her royal laurels. She's on Twitter and doing all this stuff. So I'm really impressed. But what was most impressive is, like, you don't touch royalty. There was a protocol, and they all hugged Chewbacca. So I guess there's it's like everybody has to hug Chewbacca, but it was kind of funny to see that, because you were, okay, Chewbacca just gets an out. He's like, oh, you're gonna hug me because I'm cute and I'm furry and I'm sweet to everybody.
Yeah, I saw that they got to go and I was like, you would.
Yeah, that would have been for me probably a high point. So and it's always good, because for over there in England, just to have the movie business, to have those movies there is such a big boon for them. And so it's important to kind of garner those relationships. It's almost like they feel like they're trying to make London a second Hollywood or something.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So we have a book that actually came out today as we were recording this, Bloodline by Claudia Gray, which I am so excited for, but I'm not going to be reading it for probably another month due to our Bookworms reading schedule. So I will dive into it soon. But I know that, Tricia, you've read it and your initial review is that you like it, right?
My initial review is that I love it. Love it with little hearts around the love.
Okay.
Like big hearts.
Okay, so I have a question for you without spoilers. So Claudia Gray's Lost Stars obviously is amazing. How would you compare it to Bloodline?
Well, I liked Lost Stars because you could just use a galaxy and enjoy other characters. But this one, this is Leia. So it's Leia. It's her story. It answers some questions about The Force Awakens, about where the resistance came from. I saw some people tweeting after Jen Heddle's article that she did not imply that this gives you the origins of the First Order, although some people suggested that. There's hints of the First Order, but definitely not the origins. This is where the resistance came from. So, and for the people who wanted to see Han and Leia maybe in the happier times, you get a picture of what their life was like. So I would say that for you, Sarah, this is a must read.
Oh, I'm excited now.
And I read the book. I watched The Force Awakens upon finishing the book. And when the thing that happens with Han happens, I bawled my eyes out. And that was the first time I really felt something about that moment. So I've been blogging about Star Wars books for a long time. It's the reason I got into blogging, and I asked for a lot of things to kind of up their game, to bring things around to what I thought Star Wars used to be back in the day when Heir to the Empire came out. I wrote an article at Pop Sugar, and I think Claudia Gray was the person we needed at this time. She does an amazing job. Leia is strong. She's powerful. She is also very vulnerable and flawed, and you can see her moments of weakness, and you can see the moments where everybody said, gosh, we never get to see how much Alderaan hurt her. Well, this book's gonna kind of claw your guts out about that. If you wanted to see it, you're gonna see how bad it hurt her, and I appreciate that. So it'll take you on the gamut. So I recommend it. It's beautifully written. The prose is wonderful. I read like an editor, and I got lost in this book. I really didn't. It was so clean. It's beautifully written. And I think after this book, people are going to, I was told once I have, by someone in the Star Wars business, that I have impossibly high standards for books. And it met my impossibly high standards. So apparently they're not so impossible. That's my recommendation for it.
Wow, so let me get my iPad and let me download the Kindle right now. And I'll start reading right after this.
Yeah, and it answers some questions, but it raises a lot more questions. So don't think you're going to get into this and be like, oh, I know this and I know that. One of the things was I went back and reread parts, because in a lot of Star Wars books, they would say, so-and-so grabbed a DL-44 blaster and they shot at the whatever type of ship, and they would define the ship. And there's very little of this. I mean, she has pieces like there was an X-Wing and a B-Wing, but then she would say, Leia's like, oh, and then this modified ship. And she doesn't describe what it is. She doesn't tell you what the armaments were. And I went back to other Star Wars books, and, you just look at the difference. You just, you can use your imagination. So we can all imagine a modified fighter with heavy armament on it. I think we can do that. We're capable of that. So I like that it opens those doors up to, you don't have to know every little bit of canon to imagine what something looks like.
State your name for the record.
Jyn Erso.
Forgery of Imperial documents. possession of stolen property, aggravated assault, resisting arrest.
On your own from the age of 15. Reckless, aggressive, and undisciplined.
This is a rebellion, isn't it? I rebel.
All right, and this next thing is all about Rogue One. And we got some information about a character from Rogue One. Tricia, since you brought this one up, I'm going to let you talk about this one because I think you're excited about it.
Well, we haven't even talked about the trailer. So what did you think, Teresa? Because that's kind of, we were recording last time and it was going to be released the next day. So we asked people to share, which they did, their thoughts. But what did you think, Teresa?
So the first time I saw it, I was actually very underwhelmed and really bummed out because I just was like, this is it. This is the teaser trailer. And then it took me watching it 2 or 3 more times before I finally started to get excited. Although I did see some of the comparisons that people were making to things like the Hunger Games and some other stuff. I can see it if you're reaching for it. I don't think it's that blatant, but I can see how some people were comparing it to things like that. But it did take me watching it 2 or 3 times. It was not like the Force Awakens trailers where I just got all kinds of hashtag feels. Sarah, what about you?
Well, for a teaser trailer, I thought it was more of a trailer because, I mean, you got the plot, you got a lot of the characters and kind of their introduction, and it took me a couple times to realize at the final shot of Jyn Erso, she's actually in like the Empire's fighter, the flight uniform, right?
It's actually a Death Star gunner uniform.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, what is up with that? And then, of course, with the commentary that's going on underneath.
What will you do when they catch you? What will you do if they break you? If you continue to fight? What will you become?
So I really liked it, and the Palm Tree Planet. I'm all about the Palm Tree Planet.
Did you guys watch the reaction video that they showed to the people who worked on the special effects at ILM?
No.
That watching the people react. You haven't seen that one?
Mm-mm.
So they're showing the people who worked on the movie how people reacted. So because people do these reaction videos now where they film themselves, and it was kind of funny to watch them all, do their little bit and see the kind of when people saw them on Mothma and they're just like, and then when people saw the AT-ATs and well, some of them were bleeped out, but just the reactions where they're just like, oh my God, because the AT-AT is. We have a visual in that in our head, usually in the snow. There were some in the Return of the Jedi, but it just wasn't as impressive. So this one, again, looking up at them, seeing people run at them, it's not good when you're running at one because you're out in the open. And so, this movie, unlike The Force Awakens, we know the basics of it, that they're going to steal the Death Star plan. So they can be a little bit more, I'd say, inviting as far as telling us a little bit more about because it's not like we're trying to hide the ball. Okay, we got that. I mean, we didn't even know what The Force Awakens was about. They didn't even show Luke Skywalker. Right. So we didn't know it was about finding Luke Skywalker. So that was one of my favorite things, was the reaction to the reaction. And then we didn't even see Mads Mikkelsen, who's a favorite. Did any of you guys watch Hannibal? Did you? No. That's, if you like
I have reasons for that.
It's actually really good, especially for the costume design, but I never watched it.
Do y'all not realize that I have a fear of human beings that go cray and can attack you while you're in your shower? Because I'm sure I have mentioned that maybe once.
I don't generally like horror stuff either, but an interesting show. I never watch it at night. I always watch it during the day.
Heck no.
So
I don't even watch Scream at night. I Know What You Did Last Summer at night or ever.
Okay, so that would definitely not be the show for you. But Matt was doing some press just the other day, and he started talking and dropping information. So, if you want to learn a little bit more about Rogue One, you can go check out what he's saying. If you don't want to know more about Rogue One and you're just happy with the visuals, you can just watch the trailer.
Wow. Wow. Mads Mikkelsen is having a year, man. He's in Rogue One and he's in Doctor Strange.
Yes.
Wow.
I wonder why his parents named him Mads.
Well, he's obviously from one of those northern countries. Danish. He's Danish. There we go.
Okay. Maybe Mads is a Danish name. Well, since we are talking and recording on May the 4th Eve, what kind of plans do you guys have for May the 4th? So, Sarah, I know you have some things going on.
Yes. So, Disneyland last week, which is unusual for them, announced that they were doing a special May the 4th day. So in the evening, we will probably be able to get there, my husband Richard and I, and we'll spend the evening there. And Disneyland is doing special, one of the cool things is they're releasing special Force for Change shirts. They're Rogue One shirts, and they will be available. 25% of the purchase price will go towards, Force for Change charities. So that's really cool. And then starting at 6 p.m., they're having a fan celebration on the Galactic Grill stage, formerly the Tomorrowland stage, with trivia and special surprises. So my feeling is they threw this together, and at the time of the blog post, they didn't even know what the special surprises are going to be. So we'll see. We'll see what happens, and we'll report back.
So there's a bunch of other things going on for May the 4th. There is some stuff from Star Wars in the Classroom. And Tricia, I'm going to let you talk about these next two things because you know more about them than I do.
Well, Star Wars in the Classroom, who we're big fans of, they have served like the Jedi on May the 4th, which will have already happened. But I think it's a movement that if you want to honor just trying to do something for your community, they have a lot of examples out there. So you could hashtag serve like a Jedi. And then we also found out about Andrew Slack's program, which is hashtag Teach Me You Did. And that's honoring how Star Wars and mentors have helped you through the lens of Star Wars. And, just people posting videos and whatnot like that. I was thinking about this in kind of the framework of Star Wars Day. And I almost think some of these things are going to get lost in the consumerism of Star Wars Day,
yes,
which is a lot of sales. Mm-hmm. I've been bombarded with emails.
Yes.
Think Geek, Her Universe. That there's this code, there's that code. Buy this book, do that book, and so I almost wonder if these movements wouldn't be better served to move off these days and try something around the time of Star Wars Day to maybe promote them, but then do them, next week. We had, obviously, Force for Change is built up to Star Wars Day, and that's a movement that Lucasfilm has initiated. So, I think that we should all try to serve like a Jedi all the time and to honor our teachers. But I think they're great movements. They're the best of intention. It's just even when I try to think, well, how can I become part of them? I had writing assignments. I had to get stuff done. I had work assignments. So it's almost like, well, tomorrow, now I have 2 meetings. Star Wars Day is going to kind of pass me by with real life stuff. So,
well, and this kind of leads into, I did a Twitter poll today, and May the 4th was great when Star Wars wasn't really in the forefront of pop culture. It was something to bring the community together for us to talk about Star Wars and things like that. But with Star Wars being so mainstream now, I'm just thinking, is May the 4th really even that important? Is Star Wars Day really a thing we need to be paying attention to? Because as Tricia, you said, it's turning into a big consumerism thing, and a lot of people just jumping in for the sales and the discounts. And I just found out today that my Hallmark store, which is not a corporate Hallmark store, is jumping in on this as well. And we're doing a discount and we're being encouraged to wear Star Wars stuff to work, which I'm completely fine with. But I just started laughing to myself because even my store, which is not corporate, is jumping in. So I actually did a Twitter poll today. I said, is hashtag Star Wars Day, hashtag May the 4th, still a big deal to you? And so far, as I just refreshed it, and it goes until tomorrow, but there's 66 votes, and 58% says yes always. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they're doing anything for it, just that it's important because it's like, hey, Star Wars Day. And then 15% said no, not really. And 21% said kinda, I'll wear a shirt. And then 6% actually said it's an excuse for online sales. And it's interesting how that's kind of evolved, because I remember when Star Wars Day was a big deal for us. But today I'm just like, okay, well, it's tomorrow and I'm going to wear a shirt, but it's not the community builder that it used to be.
Well, arguably our community is built already and there's always fans joining in. But I think it's great that we have a community that's recurring and it's fresh and it's here for everyone, hopefully. And so for me, I think May the 4th just kind of escalates that in a way. And it's just an excuse to say, hey, May the 4th be with you. Kind of like, hey, happy Mother's Day, or hey, happy, I don't know.
You just compared Star Wars Day to Mother's Day, which is so funny. And here's why. Here's why that's funny. Because for Hallmark, for a single holiday, because you can't count Christmas because it's a season, Mother's Day is the single biggest moneymaker for Hallmark stores over Valentine's Day. So thank you for reiterating my point. Not even knowing that you did it.
We're getting cynical, but maybe corporate America is making us cynical. No, it's true. I mean, I've been watching TV, and I'm like, why are there so many perfume commercials this week? Like, what's going on? And then I'm like, oh, it's Mother's Day. And really, your mom does not want a bottle of perfume. I'm just saying.
No,
she wants you to do the laundry.
Yeah.
No, she wants you to take her to dinner.
Yeah.
She wants you to tell her
dinner.
that you appreciate her. Yeah, or make dinner for her, something like that. But I've just always loved May the 4th being sort of similar to like Wear Star Wars, Share Star Wars Day, or for stuff like that, where it gives us a chance to come together. And so this is sort of driving me to say, you know what, guys, and you and Tricia and Sarah, we should make it something again instead of just the consumerism thing. And maybe not this year, but maybe next year. Maybe we can brainstorm something, like make it a thing.
Well, a few years ago when I was in the Galapagos on May the 4th, which I didn't realize until after the trip was scheduled, I would be in the middle of nowhere missing Star Wars stuff. I wore a shirt every day on that trip, and I invited the people who knew I was a Star Wars fan to celebrate Star Wars Day with me. And that was my way of trying to, share the love with people who weren't already Well, I wouldn't say they weren't fans. They knew about Star Wars. As a matter of fact, one lady told me her favorite character was Captain Kirk. And I said, and to be honest, I said to her, then I was like, yes, because she got at least the idea, which is science fiction fantasy. And another lady who never even knew there were her universe shirts realized that there were her universe shirts. And I found out that she had been in the movie theater in 1977 and had wished her whole life for stuff. So she discovered her universe shirts. So that's kind of the way I want to bring. That was my most favorite Star Wars Day. And I got on the internet, which was dial up at like 11 o'clock at night, and read the tweets after the day. That's how I enjoyed it. And I kind of think,
sorry.
Yeah, exactly. And let me tell you, after you've lived with regular internet like we have now, and then you go to dial up, it's like I could have run laps around the boat and probably probably sat on the tortoise to go laps around the boat before my email came up. So, I had to go back to that. What is it? The simple mail. So anyway, it made me appreciate Star Wars Day, and what it's supposed to do is to bring community. So I'm going to try to do it that way again.
Nice.
Rancho Obi-Wan is home to the world's largest Star Wars memorabilia collection, as recognized by the Guinness Book of World Records. Become a member of Rancho Obi-Wan right now to get exclusive access to tours of Rancho Obi-Wan hosted by Steve Sansweet, invites to special events, and more. Plus, you can also make a difference and help Rancho Obi-Wan grow with a simple donation of $1 or higher. Visit ranchoobi-wan.org now to get the latest news, become a member, or make a donation. ranchoobi-wan.org.
While we're on community building, maybe we should have Rob Dellinger roll it.
Shout it out to the social media from Teresa and Tricia and Sarah. Shout it out, fangirl shout outs.
All right. Well, speaking of building communities, Sandra kind of took, this was Kai's, Yogi Kai on Twitter's idea to talk about the Mortis trilogy live while we were viewing it on Twitter. So we had the hashtag Mortis Arc live party on Twitter, watched it. Everybody started at 8:00 Eastern time, 5:00 Pacific, 7:00 Central. And we turned it on. Yes, I did turn it on early, people. I was trying to be ahead of you. And I was like 2 minutes before 8. I did turn it on. I love how people were like, you turned it on early. I did. So we talked about it, and we had a lot of engaged fans. You can still watch Mortis Arc and read the tweets if you want to go to the hashtag. But my favorite one was Amy Wishman Nailen, and she's at Amy Wishman on Twitter. She tweeted at us after, at FG Going Rogue, at Skywalking Pod. My 7-year-old daughter rewatched Mortis Arc 4 times since Mortis Arc Live, and initiating discussion of symbolism, hashtag fangirl. So, I mean, how cool is that?
That's great that it's just incited a conversation among the community. And once again, that's that Star Wars fan community, rising up, and everyone wants to be included. And I think one of the main things after we had finished this Mortis Arc Live tweet party is, let's do it again. Let's do it again. I thought that was really cool. And let's see. So Ajwa Adama, he is at Ajwa_Adama on Twitter. He posted hashtag Mortis Arc Live. I wrote this a while back in 3 parts covering symbology. So he has written a blog post concerning on coffeewithkenobi.com concerning Mortis and the symbology of the Force. So it was a really thought-provoking article. And then I know, Tricia, you had also written an article on the Mortis Arc that you posted. So it was really interesting reading those articles, having just watched the Mortis Arc and having just watched the season finale of Star Wars Rebels Season 2 as well.
Yeah, that article is the metaphors of Mortis, and it's one of the biggest hitters on my website. I don't know why Mortis really gets people looking. They're looking for kind of the philosophy. They're looking about things about the Force. So I get a lot of thoughtful emails too from people after they've read the article. So it doesn't surprise me that people wanted to talk about the episode while we watched it, because sometimes I don't think if we had live tweet watches back then I might have missed some of the stuff. But now that I've seen it many times, I can kind of enjoy it and watch other people enjoy it.
Nice.
So there was, we got a tweet from Matt Clifton. He's at the final 1884 on Twitter. And I didn't get to take part in this with you guys, but it seemed really fun. And he said, hashtag Mortis Arc Live, altar of Mortis and altar of Malachor. Coincidence? And he showed a picture. And it is interesting because they do look the same.
I know.
And that's what I like about having parties, because people see different things.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. I know when Dave Filoni discussed the altar of Mortis and the altar of Malachor, he did say that the framework was the exact same.
Yeah, and when you watch, having watched now Rebels and having watched Mortis and looking at Rebels early on, we had the the temple on Lothal that's looks different. It looks more, how would we say, natural when you first see it. Is that it was very striking that the thing, the structure that is Mortis as they approach it, as Anakin, Ahsoka, and Obi-Wan approach it, looks like two temples kind of base to base. And so if you look at it, maybe if you flip them over, then one of them's the Sith side or the Jedi side, or maybe the Jedi are revering one side of that balance and the Sith are revering the other side. And I believe that, sometimes we get too caught up in the, how would we say, the good and the evil aspect, or the light and the dark, but these are just the sister and the son are kind of natural opposing forces. One is creation, one is chaos. You can see that kind of happen as the sister walks through, things grow, as the son walks through, things stop growing and sometimes wither and die. And that's sort of just the natural course of things, that the nature is always trying to find balance. So that was kind of the one thing that when Matt brought that up, I was like, okay, really cool. So, but Kai brought up during the discussion, she brought up the selflessness during selfishness. So I thought we could sort of spin that off in looking at like characters from The Force Awakens. Teresa, do you think Rey is a selfless character? Does she do anything selfish in the movie? How do you see her in terms of not good and evil, but as far as selflessness and selfishness?
Well, I think that she's both, but I think most people are both. I think that we have a natural tendency to be selfish about certain things, and we also have that ability, depending on the type of person we are, to be selfless. And I think we see instances of her selflessness with being willing to do what she needs to do for BB-8 and kind of taking him in and protecting him, and then being willing to go and try and deliver him to the base and stuff like that. Now, I do think we see some selfishness in her also when she tries to run away from her destiny with the lightsaber and says, I don't want any part in that. I'm going to go. And she starts taking off. And so now her selfishness could be driven by fear. It could be driven by the unknown, things like that. So I think everybody has tendencies for both. It's just a matter of, it's situational kind of for some people. For some people. And then there's just some people who operate purely out of one or the other. And being a teacher, and I teach health. And so we talk about this kind of stuff a lot, and about being able to recognize when you need to be selfish, when you need to be selfless, and that being either on one end of the spectrum is considered unhealthy, but being right in the middle would be where you would want to be.
Yeah. Sarah, you had a really great thought in the show notes about her being maybe selfish at a moment.
Well, okay. So my question is, when Rey is, she saves Finn from the Rathtars. And then when she goes to meet him, he goes, "Did you see that?" She goes, "Oh yeah, that was lucky." She doesn't say that it was her that saves him. So is that being selfish? Is that being what does that moment mean? That moment confuses me.
Well, we may not know what that moment means, but it's definitely, there are a lot of times when Rey doesn't disclose the truth. And it's very, knowing what we know about Obi-Wan, who tells things from a certain point of view, that, she doesn't tell him what she did. Now, maybe it's like, well, the same thing she says later on in Starkiller Base. I could tell you, but then you wouldn't understand it, right? So again, she kind of conceals who or what she did, or maybe what she's capable of. So that's the thing. Is she hiding it because she doesn't want to say who she is? I mean, she even jokes at the beginning of the movie when BB-8 says he's classified. What does she say?
Classified, really?
Me too.
Me too. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. So you think it's kind of an offhand comment, but then when it comes to her saying things that she did, especially things that are Force related, she's not necessarily totally out in the open. And it's the character who we think of as being, I mean, Finn, we know he's deceitful. And she's like, oh, are you from the Resistance? And he's like, well, sure. Yeah, that sounds good. That's what I'll be today. And he's deceitful about, he shades his telling of BB-8 that, you know, I have this jacket because your master died. So he's using that to his advantage. He's being selfish in the moment. But a moment before that, we see him be selfless and go and run to save Rey when she's getting beat up. So she's more almost kind of shaded in, we don't know where she falls on the spectrum. And with Finn, we know exactly where he is. And Han Solo tells him the women always figure out the truth. And, you know, and then he fesses up. He's like, well, I'm not who you think I am. I got to go. Bye. And he admits to being afraid. He's like, yeah, she's right. Maz is right. I'm done. So, you know, that's how I think these things like Mortis can help us. George Lucas was framing his whole legacy, his whole philosophy of storytelling in those arcs. So that's why it's fun to think about the characters after the fact.
But I'd just like to say, like, Finn doesn't stay in that selfish mode for the entire movie. Because one of the biggest emotional parts of The Force Awakens for me is when he's chasing after Rey and he screams Rey. Like, it chokes me up every single time. And he goes after her and all that stuff. So a purely selfish person wouldn't continue to do that.
Exactly. And he's like, that's like his step up into heroism. He's like, I'm putting her above me.
Right. And, you know, Sarah, to your point, when you were talking about how she hides it, I don't know if that's necessarily a selfish or selfless act. I think it's more of a just like, I don't want to, like, we don't need to get into this right now. Just more of like, instead of, she could have been cocky and been like, you're welcome. But instead she was like, well, that was lucky. Okay, let's go.
Right.
Got stuff to do.
Yeah. So that's kind of the ways it's cool to think about that. And then Sarah, like, as far as if we were to look at the sun as a force of destruction and then the daughter as being a force of creation, do we see any forces of destruction in The Force Awakens?
So you're talking about the Mortis arc son and daughter.
Yep.
And I'm going to use your show notes here. Kylo Ren is always like destroying things. So I guess he's kind of destruction, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And then there's one of my favorites, Hux, who just wants, he doesn't, you know, at least the Tarkin I felt like had a goal. Hux is just kind of like, I'm just going to wipe everything out. So he's like maybe more tainted with the dark side than even Kylo is.
Right.
You know, he's way out there. I don't even, you know, he doesn't want to, you know, fire maybe burns things down because that's what fire is supposed to do. It's supposed to consume things, but he's not just fire. He's like fire with an evil twist on it that wants to burn things because it can.
Yeah. Well, also another thought came to mind is at the beginning scene on Jakku, the attack on Jakku, you know, that's obviously a bunch of destruction right there. And Finn, you know, he's told to be one of the destructors and he fights against that. So that's a way that he's kind of more on the creation side.
Absolutely. So Teresa, when Kylo sees Finn, do you think he sees Finn as recognized, like when he stops in that moment, do you think he sees him like he's looking at him and going, that guy knows I'm bad? Or do you think possibly he looks at him and says, that guy has good in him? Like, what would be worse for Kylo Ren?
I think when Kylo Ren looks at Finn, he just says, I think Kylo Ren knows that Finn is a deserter and that Finn is not completely controlled by Hux. I think that's what Kylo Ren, he's like, got my eyes on you. I see you.
Well, the you know, kind of the thought is because Leia's saying Kylo, there's still light in him. She doesn't even see there's good in him. She doesn't make that distinction. She says there's light in him, and which is really different than what we hear Padme say, which is there's still good in him. And so you wonder if she has a different philosophy on the Force than even what we understood and what Luke was taught about the Force. So we don't know what Leia is capable of. And even as I was reading Bloodline, and I hope everybody as you read it thinks about what is Leia capable of, knowing that she can use the Force in this book, because we don't ever see her use the Force in a way, but I still feel like in the book that she could be using the Force. She just might not be saying so from her point of view.
So let's talk about the tree.
Yeah.
What about the
I know Sarah had, I know you brought it up too. Did you notice the tree in the background at the end as Ahsoka fights Anakin and Obi-Wan and the leaves start to, and I talk about this in Metaphors of Mortis, how the tree essentially dies, it sheds its leaves, and then they sprout anew in that whole scene. It's kind of like, this is kind of going to pass. And what do you think, now that we've talked about Rebels and we watched that, what do you think of that moment when Ahsoka comes back and everything that's kind of happening in that scene?
Well, I mean, now with the season finale of Star Wars Rebels, that scene kind of has a whole new meaning, because I know for me, the daughter breathes life back into Ahsoka again. And that was a moment that I kind of forgot about. I forgot that it was the daughter who gave her life for Ahsoka. But now looking to Star Wars Rebels Season 2 and how Ahsoka's kind of the yin to the Darth Vader's yang, she's more kind of a light side spirit, if you will, I suppose. So, that had far-reaching consequences. So that's what I'm seeing there. And then going back to the tree, that's really cool that the tree does that in that scene in the Mortis arc. And I also noticed in the Mortis arc that there is a tree symbol on the floor in the Mortis temple.
Yeah, that temple's like a gold mine.
And that's the tree I noticed in the Mortis arc, more so than the tree that sheds its leaves and rebirths, for a different example.
Now, Teresa, have you guys done Shattered Empire on Star Wars Bookworms yet?
Nope.
So when you get to it, definitely notice the tree that Luke goes to find. That's a Force-sensitive tree. So we see this recurring theme of the tree. We have also the tree cave in Dagobah, which is a nexus of Force power. And Dave Filoni talks about Tolkien a lot. And one of my favorite characters in The Lord of the Rings is the Ents.
Oh, those are those tree creatures, right?
They protect the forest against destructive powers.
Whoa.
Yes.
Wait, so can they move? I forget. Or are they They can move. Okay.
I know lots about those trees because I've read all the books and I have watched all the movies. But yes, Treebeard and his tree friends.
Well, and there's, the tree shows up over and over again. It's the world tree's roots into Asgard in Norse mythology, which people might see a little bit showing up with Thor. There's also, the tree in Avatar that James Cameron used. They had to shoot down the tree.
But he just ripped off the tree from Ferngully for that.
Yeah. Yes, but that's why. But the tree keeps showing up, and I believe there's a tree in Harry Potter, the Whomping Willow.
The Whomping Willow,
which
but the Whomping Willow serves a very specific.
Well,
purpose.
it holds.
And what is the purpose?
It's the
purpose of the Whomping Willow.
Yeah. Well, it's its roots, and its roots is a cave or like a passageway to
the Shrieking Shack.
The Shrieking Shack. Thank you. Yes.
Yes, so the Whomping Willow was put on the campus of Hogwarts because our Professor Lupin, or Remus Lupin, was a student. He was okay. Yes, people, if you haven't,
I'm just saying,
it's been so long ago. Professor Lupin, who is Remus Lupin, when he was a kid, he was bit by a werewolf, and so he's a werewolf. And yes, people comment on the way that I say wolf, and I just cannot pronounce it properly.
Me either. I'm with you.
Okay, so Dumbledore puts the tree on the property of Hogwarts so that he can go through the passageway into the Shrieking Shack, which was built for him, so he could transform into a werewolf there and not hurt anybody. So that is why the Whomping Willow is there. And there's a little knot on the base of the trunk of the tree that if you push it, it stops the Whomping Willow from going all crazy
From
and trying
whomping.
to beat you up. Yeah, from whomping you.
So it's a protector.
I'm
That's
actually
quite interesting.
I'm currently rereading the Harry Potter books. Like as we speak, I'm rereading, and I'm on 4. So I just got done with Prisoner of Azkaban, which is my favorite book, and they talk all about the Whomping Willow.
It's in the middle of the series.
It's like the 3rd book,
Yeah,
right?
which is kind of when.
Well,
Yeah.
its first appearance is in the second
Right.
book when it whomps Ron and Harry when they're inside of the flying
car.
Ford Angelina car.
Yes.
Yeah. But then it continues to make appearances through the rest of the series because it is a piece of the Hogwarts castle property. But other trees.
And Sarah ran perhaps by a tree on your half marathon?
Yeah. Oh, the Tree of Life in Animal Kingdom. Definitely. So it's interesting that the Disney saw fit to make that their focal point for that park.
Right. And then there is the tree that is in Pocahontas, Grandmother Willow, and she gives Pocahontas all of her guidance.
That's true. And Into the Woods, there's the tree that is Cinderella's mom as well.
Yes. Yes, I had forgotten about that.
So cool.
Agony. Can we sing? No, I won't sing.
No, we'll just pop in the DVD right after. How about that?
Agony is a great song.
It is an amazing song. But anyway, we thought that would just spur people to think about it. So think about the trees and storytelling and think about them showing up in important moments in Star Wars. You were talking about the Whomping Willow, and I was thinking of Dagobah and the tree cave as you were describing what it could do and someone transforming inside it. So that's, see the parallels.
What's in there?
Only what you take with you.
So Captain America Civil War is coming out. It comes out this Friday. And actually over on Birth Movies Death, they did an article talking about how the creators from Captain America Civil War were influenced by The Empire Strikes Back for the ending of the movie. And Sarah, I know you've seen it. I haven't seen it. Tricia, I don't know if you have.
I have not seen it. And this article does not have spoilers.
No, it doesn't.
But I'm sure we'll talk about it. But essentially, it just says that they were committed to making a really dark movie in the vein of Empire Strikes Back. And every time they didn't want to do the same, Marvel movie ending. So they kept going, but Empire Strikes Back did it. But Empire Strikes Back did it. So now I just want to, and for all the things that people talk about spoilers, I'm on the internet all the time. I don't know anything that's going to happen in this movie other than what I've seen in the trailer. So Star Wars is a different property, but I follow a lot of these people, and it seems like everybody's being really good about this movie. So it's been out in Europe for a week now. So
it has?
Huh, yeah,
I didn't know that. The only reason I want to see this, by the way, because I'm not really a Captain America fan, the only reason I want to see it is for Underoos. That's it.
Wait, what?
Spider-Man.
Oh, okay. I was confused. Well, the article is really interesting, and I read it after I saw the movie. I saw the movie last night, and it's definitely darker, but it's phenomenal, you guys. And I think it bears, I'm definitely going to see it again because there was a lot going on and a lot of things flying at you, but it's a really great story. And oh my gosh, all the, this should be Avengers, 3, really, because there's so many superheroes in this movie, including Spider-Man.
Underoos.
So it's really cool that a Marvel movie used a Star Wars example, but if you were thinking of it the other way, have you guys seen all the Marvel movies that have been out so far other than this Captain America Civil War?
I have.
Teresa?
The only one I have not seen is Captain America Winter Soldier, but everybody's told me that Winter Soldier is leaps and bounds way better than Captain America First Avenger.
They're so good.
But here's the thing. It's not streaming anywhere.
It's got to be on TNT soon.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, also, honestly, Winter Soldier is really mandatory viewing before you see Civil War, because there's some character motivations that you really need to know about.
So, Sarah, now that you've seen this movie, what would you want Star Wars to take away from Marvel? Like, what are the lessons, and also what would you want to see them maybe not take from Marvel?
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, the Marvel model has kind of been, you have your standalone films that are each kind of a different genre, if you will. Like Captain America Winter Soldier, for example, was like a political thriller. You have Ant-Man as kind of your caper movie, so they have different tones to them. And then you have your main Avengers movies, which like every sequence of Marvel movies is leading up to each time, so you get to learn a little about your characters, and then you get to see them all come together in one amazing movie. And I mean, speaking from just watching Civil War, which really was Avengers 3, like I was so invested in each and every of the 12 superheroes in that movie versus when I saw Batman versus Superman or Batman v Superman, like I didn't care what happened to the characters because you
Batman equals
right. So you didn't exactly. So there was no investment there. So I really like how they've done that, and Star Wars, the Lucasfilm movies are kind of following that model in that they're having your main Star Wars films following the Skywalker family, for lack of a better term, and then you have your off the beaten path films, which are now called your Star Wars story films, that are each different genre films. Like it sounds like the Han Solo and Chewbacca, film, or Han Solo movie will be more of kind of like a buddy film that's maybe kind of funny, and Rogue One is more your war movie. It's like a totally different tone than what the Han Solo movie will be. So I think that it's a good model. It keeps it fresh. Both Marvel and Star Wars are keeping it fresh by doing that instead of just having movies that are all the same tone. Also, they can mine different directors and things too that are good at their respective tones or respective types of films as well.
Well, and Sarah, I like what you're saying about the model, but the one thing that Marvel is doing is that they're purposely doing the standalone films to bring in all the characters together in this one big culmination for, the big Ultimate Avengers type movie. They're setting everything up so that they're pulling their universe together. That is one thing I don't want Star Wars to do. I want Star Wars to stick with their classic numbered movie storyline that they're doing. And then I want their standalones to be these side stories that take us into other parts of the galaxy, because Star Wars is so massive that there's so many places that we can go that we wouldn't get to go otherwise, because the story with the Skywalker family, like you said, for lack of a better term, follows this one very distinct path. And so I don't want it to be like, oh, let's have, Rogue One, and then let's have the Han Solo movie and all this stuff, and then let's tie it all back in. I don't want that to happen. Is that weird?
No, I think it's spot on to kind of what I feel too. I mean, we talked about this a lot as books fans. Like they kept running everything back to Luke, Han, and Leia, and I was like, go somewhere else in the galaxy. Like there's so many more things than Marvel is the end of the galaxy as we know it, right? That's ultimately the kind of the end game. Are we going to stop the end of the galaxy? And there's only so much play you have in that. And not every, there's so much to do with Star Wars, and please don't make everything about the Jedi and the Skywalkers and the Solos, and make it about just people. like other people that aren't those people that don't have a stake in even that. I mean, there is compelling things about superheroes, but there's also compelling things about, somebody else doing something.
Right. Well, I definitely like your points, and I wouldn't want Star Wars necessarily to follow the Marvel model. I just like that it's having different tones for different films. But if anything, it's the novels and the comics that are going to tie things together in fun and interesting ways. And that's what I like about the Star Wars universe.
Right. I think there's a lot more flexibility with books and comics to be able to do stuff like that without it being so direct the way that it is in a film. You can mention a character or you can do something like that. There's just ways in books and comics that don't exist in film.
Yeah.
Plus, if you want to find all that stuff, you actually have to go out and read. It's not as easy as just sitting down and watching a movie.
Very true.
Yes. And that's a good thing. Like, the movies are very relatable. Like, I remember one time seeing, I think it was on IO9 for Guardians of the Galaxy. It was like the 500 things you need to know. It wasn't 500, but that's what it felt like when I looked at it. It was like all these things you need to know to see Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm like, I read that IO9 article and I'm like, you just talked to me out of going to see Guardians of the Galaxy. That was what that article did to me. And then I went to see Guardians of the Galaxy because of the buzz. And I was like, okay, I didn't need to know any of that stuff to see the movie. So that's where the movies in Marvel do a good job of making it accessible to everybody. And I hope that Star Wars takes that lesson away from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, to not get bogged down so much in the minutia that really bogged down the books when they were the continuity line.
Right.
So
I would agree. I want Star Wars to do the same thing because clearly DC did not get the memo.
It's Zack Snyder has for a long time reminded me in tone when he answers questions, Troy Denning. He reminds me so much. He's very dismissive. He's not listening to the fans. There was an article that said on the Hollywood Reporter that he was blindsided to the reaction to the movie. And I'm like, Zack Snyder, how could you have been blindsided by that? I mean, there was nothing quiet about the response to Man of Steel. And it was the same people making the same kind of, this isn't working for me. So that same tone was the same tone I was reading back in the day, where they have to be careful. They become very wedded to Zack Snyder. And I don't know, he's a good visual guy. I don't think he's necessarily a storyteller guy. And, Star Wars has done a really good start of making you care about the characters that we knew nothing about. We knew nothing about them. So to keep doing that, because Rey isn't a Captain America who we should go, well, there's a reason we should care about her, or Finn or Kylo or any of those people.
Right. Well, speaking of characters, I think it's time for Rob Dellinger to roll it again.
Sidious, Anakin, Luke and Leia, Qui-Gon Jinn, C.O. Bibble, Kylo Ren, Salacious Crumb, Bib Fortuna, Boba Fett, Amidala, Wicket, R2-D2, BB-8, I can barely keep it straight. It's a character discussion. It's the Fangirls on character. It's a character discussion.
So for this character discussion, we bounced around a few ideas, and then I had a eureka moment. And it was one of those moments, Tricia, where I come up with something like our character discussion about the Falcon or the Jedi Council. And I said, you know what? Let's talk about the lightsaber and the character of a lightsaber. We've gotten so many iterations of a lightsaber, from what we saw in the original trilogy to the things that we saw happen in the prequel trilogy to now Kylo Ren's lightsaber in The Force Awakens, and also Ezra's lightsaber and Kanan's in Star Wars Rebels. There have been a lot of different kinds of lightsabers. We've explored finding crystals, all kinds of things like that. So my first question, Sarah, do you think that the lightsaber crystal is a character in and of itself?
Well, I think definitely with The Force Awakens, that kind of solidified the fact that the crystal is a character, for lack of a better word, because it's calling to Rey, and the fact that the Kyber crystal calls to the Jedi younglings as well, the Padawans, I suppose. Does it call, or does it like appear when they've passed their test? I haven't watched it in a while.
Ooh, that may be the next live watch.
Well, I asked this question because I had a lot of questions about lightsabers not that long ago. In regard to Rebels, we were talking about Ahsoka and about her white lightsabers and how she got those crystals if she's not a Jedi anymore and all this other stuff. And over on Rebel Yell. And so I tweeted to Pablo Hidalgo, and he responded to me that the crystals are not a color. Their color comes once they bond with the Jedi that finds them. And so I had this question of, does the crystal appear to the Jedi when it's the right time? Like when they're looking for it, trying to find their crystal? Or what is the connection there? How does that happen? And I sort of related it back to wands. Does the wand choose, like the wand chooses the wizard, as they say in Harry Potter? Does the crystal choose the Jedi? And it just got me on this. I've written a blog post that nobody has seen yet. It is still in formation because it is super long, where I have been digesting this whole idea of the lightsaber crystal. So Tricia, I'd really love to hear your opinions on it as far as that mythology is concerned.
I think there's a little bit of both, right? It's sort of like a relationship. The Jedi, or maybe the Sith, or whoever that Force user is, has to be ready for the crystal. And, because you could meet somebody in life who might be your one true pair, your OTP, if we were going to pretend like the lightsaber was a ship with a Jedi, a relationship, and it might not be the right time. So perhaps it's a little bit of both. You could be very powerful in the Force and know how to do a lot of things, but you're not ready to wield the power of a lightsaber, or maybe you're not quite powerful enough, but you need the lightsaber knows that you need that little boost of confidence that it chooses you. So how's that for like totally, that's where I kind of
So lightsabers are shipping with their Padawans or whatever. That's funny. Now I have a question for you guys along lightsaber lines. Has there been a point where the lightsaber, like let's say a Jedi takes up another person's lightsaber, has there been a point where that lightsaber has not responded properly to the Jedi? Like that happens in Harry Potter.
It does.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think of, at any point, was there a lightsaber misbehaving?
I think we kind of see that with The Force Awakens, because Kylo Ren believes, because of his bloodline, that Luke's lightsaber belongs to him and that he should be able to wield it. But the lightsaber clearly does not agree with that and goes to Rey. And of course, we don't know Rey's parentage or anything, but I really don't think she is a Skywalker. But we do know that she is the true holder of this new lightsaber, because it was calling to her and because it went to her and didn't go to Kylo. So I think that it does happen. I think that not so much as seeing the ability to wield the lightsaber, but maybe not having as much control. And of course, we haven't really seen this in the films because I don't think this is an explored thought, but maybe it should be. And we're pitching ideas here like we usually do on this show, because I think if you're using somebody else's lightsaber, you don't have that connection to that crystal, and you're not going to be able to do the same kind of things that you would be able to do if you had it. For example.
When you were talking about the colors, which I love that answer, because if you think about that lightsaber was Anakin's lightsaber originally, and it's the same lightsaber when he chooses to become a Sith. He says he's going to become a Sith. He says he'll be Darth Vader. He walks into the temple. He kills Jedi with that lightsaber, with the blue saber. It doesn't change colors because he went Sith. I mean, we think of, if you're Sith, you have a red one, but he's still got that blue lightsaber. He fights Obi-Wan with that lightsaber, and then Obi-Wan takes it away. So now he has to make a new lightsaber, ends up finding a new crystal probably, and making it becomes red. So that seems like that's where he is emotionally when he finds this new crystal and creates the new lightsaber. And so then we see Luke later on with this lightsaber. He does okay, but he loses his hand. He has to make a new one. He doesn't make a blue one. He makes a green one. So I find that really interesting. We know that legacy of that lightsaber was a Jedi's lightsaber that was wielded against Sith. And I always feel like it was just like going, Kylo's going, come to me. And it's going, no, I don't want to. Please, Rey, call to me. Because, it's like when the dog's running around and you want him to come. And he's like, no, anybody else do something. Squirrel run. I'm going to go anywhere else but to you. So, I loved it when you thought of the idea, because I was like, come on, I know Teresa thinks outside the box. And she said, I'm like, I needed an emoji for when you make that suggestion.
Now, here's another question.
I think outside the box about strange things. But and Sarah, I'll let you ask your question in a minute, but there's just something that is driving me with this whole same as like the wand connection thing for the lightsaber. And it's just, I'm eventually going to get this blog post out, and then maybe I'll get this out of my system. But right now, it winds me up even still. Like I could probably talk about this for hours.
Well, I think it's great. Well, my question kind of lies along those lines. Is there an elder lightsaber? Like an elder wand?
It's an interesting thought. It's something that I had kind of started thinking about, and I think that would go back to really going into the Jedi temples and trying to figure out the original inception of the lightsaber and where it came from, because that's probably the same level of the Elder Wand. But it is important to keep in mind that the Elder Wand was conceived by death. So the Elder Wand was not a positive thing. The Elder Wand was a negative thing. So to me, it almost seems like that if we were to really explore that, we'd have to look at the Sith, because that's where the Elder Wand came from. There's a reason that Harry breaks the Elder Wand in half and throws it away, because nobody should be able to wield that much power.
Right.
And the Elder Wand always led to death. So, it's an interesting idea. But in Harry Potter, the difference is that lightsabers are more used for defense, whereas wands are being used for more than that.
Unless you're Kylo Ren.
Yeah, unless you're Kylo Ren.
and then it's kind of Shakespearean. So. Patricide.
Man, I so want a wand. Clean the dishes.
Right.
Clean the house. Clean the bunny cage.
So I don't know anything about Harry Potter and the Elder Wand, but so he breaks the wand and says no one should wield this
just
power?
forget all of this, Tricia, when you start reading the books.
Yeah, forget this whole conversation. Forget all of it.
I'm fine, actually, because Luke sort of decides that too, right? He says, I'm a Jedi and Return of the Jedi. And he throws down his lightsaber.
Throws away his lightsaber.
So, again, we have mythical themes coming out in just different ways, which is kind of sometimes the greatest power is the rejection of it.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to throw this out to our listeners. If you guys have any thoughts on the characteristics of lightsabers and about if they have minds of their own and personalities of their own and things like that, send us an email to contact@fangirlsgoingrogue.com and let us know what you think about it. Or you can tweet at us at FGGoingRogue. So I think it's plug time, because I know we all have some stuff going on that we want to talk about. So first things first, the newest episode of Galactic Fashion is out, Galactic Fashion number 11. And in this one, it's pretty interesting because we talk all about men's fashion and we highlight a couple of fanboys in fashion. We get some feedback from our male listeners about what is missing from men's fashion. And the question really comes down to it of, is geek fashion now one-sided? So listen to that episode to find out more about that. And then also coming up in June is the Rebel Force Radio Meetup, which is happening on Friday, June 10th at Hollywood Studios. It's going to be happening more in the morning time. We're going to meet up. We're going to have some fun. We're going to ride Star Tours. Jimmy Mack is going to ride Tower of Terror for the first time ever. It is going to happen. So, just make sure you all know, be paying attention to my Instagram and my Twitter, because I will be live tweeting all of that. And then also on Saturday, June 11th, will be the live podcast from the Hilton at Downtown Disney. It is currently sold out. It is sold out. And they sold tickets because they had to rent the venue from the Hilton. So it was $5, but it is completely sold out. And on that particular podcast, it's going to be Jason Swank, Jimmy Mack, David Collins, Steven Glosson. He's going to kill me. Steve Glosson, and me. I'll be there too.
Yay!
Yay! And I didn't get a chance to plug Hyperspace Series last month, but this is an episode that everybody will want to listen to who's a fan of Star Wars music, and Sarah joined us to talk about that. So it's the music of The Force Awakens, all sorts of thoughts. We went into the music and broke it down. So it was one of my favorite episodes to do, and Teresa's going to come on soon. I'm going to make her talk about this stuff. I may find a way. So I'm like thinking the whole time you're talking. I'm like, all right,
if you want to talk about lightsabers and wands, I'm all down. Let's do it.
Let's do it. And then you can go check out my article on Pop Sugar, which is about Bloodline for Star Wars Day. If you haven't read it already, do it. And then Star Wars Insider 165, Poe Dameron. They asked me to write about him. And of course I said yes. And yes, as I mentioned, there are quite a few more articles that are in the hopper coming out 166 and beyond.
Exciting. And of course, as we mentioned at the top of the show, Skywalking Through Neverland had their Run Disney Star Wars Dark Side meetup episode, which Tricia is on. Also, Steve Glosson is on as well. Really funny. He interjects some funny things there. And that is episode 118 of Skywalking Through Neverland.
I have one more plug that has nothing to do with Star Wars. I just really think it's a fun episode, and I want people to listen. Coming out very soon will be the Disney Vault Talk episode covering Dinosaur. And if you want to hear me go geek about something else entirely, listen to that.
Did you get Dinosaur Geek?
Oh, I'm a dinosaur geek. And it got fun because Steve was like, "Oh no, we're gonna start talking Disney or dinosaur science, aren't we?" And I was like, "Yes, we are."
Nice. I look forward to that one.
So yeah, it hasn't, at the time of this recording, which is May 3rd, it hasn't come out yet, but it should be coming out within the next few days. So by the time you guys listen to this, it will be out. So I guess until our next episode, you can visit us over at fangirlsgoingrogue.com, which is our awesome, amazing website designed by our friend Kay, and it's gorgeous, and it's a great place to keep up with everything that's going on with us. You can email us. That is not mine. I skipped over something. You can find us on Twitter. We are at FG Going Rogue. Tricia is at Fangirl Cantina on Twitter. I am at Ice Cold Penguin, and Sarah is at Jedi Tink.
You can email us, again, contact at fangirlsgoingrogue.com. I can only read at this point. You can find us on Facebook. Sandra is always starting a conversation there. So that's just go type Fangirls Going Rogue. Tumblr, yes, there is a lot of Kylo art, a lot of Rey art, some Poe art. You will find it. I think I had the Zootopia Harrison Dula crossover art that I tumbled the other day and shared on Twitter. So I love those kind of crossover things there. You can go on Tumblr, fangirlsgoingrogue.tumblr.com.
And on Instagram, we are at FG Going Rogue. Lots of fun posts over there. And you can always leave a voicemail for us at 331-21-EWOKS. Or even if you head on over to fangirlsgoingrogue.com and click on the little tab on the right side, you can leave a voicemail right there on the website from your phone. It's pretty awesome.
So head on over to iTunes and leave a positive 5-star review for the show, because we really need your reviews. It helps people find us and see us. And not just 5 stars. Give us that 5-star rating, but also write a review for us, please. And we need them. We need them so much.
Yes. Oh, and I guess we should say goodbye now from our award-winning podcast.
Yeah. This has been your award-winning podcast with your fan favorite ensemble cast of Sarah, Tricia, and Teresa.
Aww. So until next time. Dun 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 dun. Yup.
Yup. Yup.
Yup.
Yup. Does Tricia need to sing you a song?
No, I'm good. I'm good now. Yay.
Darn it. You're supposed to say yes.
Oh, yes.
Oh, no. Yub, yub. Do 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 do
Yub,
do do do. Da 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 da.
Yep, yep.
Blooper reel.
Yep.
All right, ready?